Amsterdam Cow's Milk Gouda. This is Midnight Moon Goat's Milk Gouda, and Fiscalini Bandage-wrapped cheddar. That's the big triangle right here.
You guys capture everybody's names? Yes.
So we should give a final.
Coral, don't mind me. Let alone Alicia.
All right. So,
hi everyone. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. We're just getting settled.
is that a little? Yeah, that's over there.
You can move over. You're fine if you want to move over. You're good. However you best want to do this. We can excuse ourselves for a quick tequila shot beforehand, and we can come back to the tasting. Scotch. Okay,
Quick Scotch shot.
we can do that too. This is the fun part when everybody's sitting there looking at us, and we're just kind of sitting there looking back and.
Right. Cool.
Willamette Valley, cool. Very fun. Now, how do people find out how to do this?
So our public relations firm, Charles Communications, will send an invitation out to a number of
selected people. Gotcha.
Thanks for the feedback on the video there. Happy it's working for us.
From the treadmill. Nice. Eat your cheese and get it work out. I like it.
I think the treadmill and myself with a glass of wine might be dangerous.
No kidding.
Unless it's on the really slow button. Which is probably how I'd be on the treadmill anyway.
I'd give up at that point.
And we can see on the side over here as well that we have 13 people who've joined us so far, and so that number will jump up as we go on too.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is good promo. It's a
The
way
first time you've done it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's a good way to introduce people to Lodi without having access to Lodi.
Right. And have people from all over the place, and then they help us share our story, which is really nice because we have a lot of great friends and supporters out there in the Lodi sphere.
It's amazing how many people come downtown.
You're doing that so that you can send out his password to everybody? It's just now 5 o'clock, so we might now give folks just another minute or so, because I know we had a couple others who were just running a few minutes behind. So just another minute or two and we'll get started.
Oh, man.
Oh, look at that. My computer's decided updated. So.
Thank you, Microsoft.
Oh.
Baguette cut. Like it.
Have fun.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that everybody's enthusiastic and really getting ready to taste wine and cheese together. Looks like somebody couldn't wait.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame you. Admittedly, I've tried too.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
Hopefully these people that are tasting through all 4 of these wines at home, they have some people backed up to help them finish all the wines tonight.
That'd be nice.
Either that or it's going to be a really fun night tonight and a really rough morning tomorrow.
Cause for a lack of productivity.
Well, there's some of my favorite wines here, and definitely some of my favorite cheeses, as if I hadn't had enough cheese yet today.
Exactly. Yeah, Thea, I'll send you my Swiss bank account password. Unfortunately, there may not be much money in there, but I'll send it to you just the same.
Yeah. Good catch.
Yeah. She's on it. She keeps me on it.
Yeah,
There's no doubt about that
one.
It's amazing how many people we get from all over the country in the shop. It's
Oh, I'm
just
sure.
astonishing. astonishing.
It's more and more.
We even have those people, the
Just thirsty.
honeymooners that
Sure.
came up, and we said, honeymooning? Well, where are you going to? We're going to spend a week in Lodi
That's awesome.
for your honeymoon.
That's awesome.
There you go. We're wondering if the song can be changed, if we can rewrite the song, Stuck in Lodi to Stuck on Lodi.
Sure.
How about that?
Or, go with Stuck in Lodi, and it's a great place to be stuck. It's a good thing. So, why don't we go ahead and get started? We've got a wonderful group of folks with us this evening. Welcome. My name's Camron King. I am the Executive Director with the Lodi Winegrape Commission, and I've got two wonderful co-hosts for this evening's tasting. Jeremy with Jeremy Wine Co. and
everybody.
Cindy with Cheese Central have joined us. And we wanted to give you just a little bit of an introduction to the region, and then I'll let both of my co-hosts introduce themselves and tell you their story as well. But first of all, again, welcome. We're coming to you tonight from Jeremy Wine Co., one of our fantastic tasting rooms here in downtown Lodi, which is really seeing a bit of a renaissance as far as wine tasting is concerned. We've got over 12, actually 13 now, tasting rooms in downtown Lodi, which is really exciting because it's a great place for people to come and stroll through some of our shops and stores, try some of our wines along the way, and then stop in and visit Cindy and have some cheese, and then enjoy a great dinner. So for folks who haven't been with us before, I want to give you a quick little overview of where we are and who Lodi is and what we're all about, and then we'll dive into our wine and cheese tasting, if that works for you guys tonight. So, quick refresher for those of you who've been with us, and introduction for the rest of you. Lodi sits about 90 minutes to the east of San Francisco and about 30 minutes south of Sacramento in this beautiful little pocket where the Sierra Nevada foothills come down and meet the San Francisco Bay Delta. And it's a perfect place for growing world-class wine grapes and making beautiful wines from them. We're very excited about what we've got going on here in that we grow everything from Albarino to Zinfandel, and you'll see a little bit of that breadth and diversity of wines in the four that we have before you tonight. But also we're finding that things are not only exploding in terms of visitation and tourism, but in terms of new varieties and varietals that are coming into our region. So where we sit is best described as a Mediterranean climate, really influenced a lot by the San Francisco Bay Delta. When the cool ocean breezes come in through the Golden Gate and flow right on in through the bay and into our neck of the woods, helps us cool down our region in those warm summertime afternoons, or that warm summertime season. The evenings cool down nicely, helps develop some bright acidities, and then when we warm up again in the day, allow those beautiful fruit flavors to develop in our wine grapes. So with that brief introduction, I'm sure we'll get some questions throughout the course of the evening, but we have four fantastic wines from four actually of our 85 wineries here in the Lodi region, and we look forward to sharing those and the fantastic cheeses with you. So with that, I'm going to turn to my wonderful guests and have them introduce themselves. Cindy, why don't we start with you?
Thank you. I've been in food for nearly 4 decades. Hard to believe I can say that. Either through teaching or catering. Owned a restaurant, chef from Lodi Winegrape Winery for a number of years, and it's just been a real pleasure to open this shop. We've been open 3 years in downtown Lodi, and it's just been great to see how many people travel to come and see us.
Absolutely. And Cindy's a great resource and a wonderful teacher. She operates fantastic classes and does some wonderful education, and has a beautiful selection of cheeses to complement the wines that we have poured in our region. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we usually have between 80 and 100 different kinds of cheeses in our case at any given time, and we sample all of those.
Sure, that's great.
Yeah.
And cheese tasting.
Exactly.
You gotta have it with the wine.
Yeah.
You're supposed to come and see us first and then take it to the tasting room to have your lovely wine.
Smart. See, she's got it figured out. The two go well together. So, and Jeremy Trettevik is one of our fantastic winemakers here in the region, and has his tasting room down here in downtown.
We started Jeremy Wine Company as something that my wife and I were kind of chasing around for a lot of years. I started out in the wine business in around 1994 working in the cellar for other wineries, and kind of watched Lodi grow through a lot of changes. When I was looking for work inside the wineries, we had 9 wineries in the region. Now I don't know how many we have in total.
85.
85 wineries.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a huge thing. And so about 4 years ago, my wife and I decided we were going to open up our own wine tasting room and use kind of the breadth of knowledge that I've gained over the years in doing a lot of branding and packaging, and just kind of chase the things that I'm excited about, which is some of the things that Cameron touched on with the diversity of grape varieties in our region. We've been known as the Zinfandel capital of the world for a long time. Lodi, that was the thing that we did, and it's really gathered us a lot of steam out in the market to do Zinfandels. But with the increased traffic into the region, it allows that one-on-one time where I can work with a variety that may not be viable in the broad market, but it's something very eclectic and it's interesting and it's so much fun and it does grow well here in this region. And it allows us to showcase not just the Zinfandel, but to showcase Suzao or Tempranillos or Tiroldigo or Albarino and Verdellos and all different kinds of different varieties. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy. Is I love working with small vineyards, and particularly I like to chase down passionate growers. And that's one of the things for me. You know, when I'm out and I'm eating in a restaurant, I look for a passionate chef and an owner, and I'm passionate about what I'm doing, so I'm looking for passionate growers to carry that through. I think I'm going to get better fruit, I'm going to make a better quality product out of it and deliver it back to the people, and it's a full circle at that point.
And that's a good point, that it's really a partnership between the winemaker and the grape grower, and I think that's one of the things that makes this community and our region so special is that it is a collaborative, and it's a deep commitment to working together from grape to glass. And we're not a region that is divided by any stretch of the imagination. Rather, we really work together and want folks, when they come and visit us, to feel a nice sense of community and to be welcomed. And that's the personality of who we are. And I think that really shows in everything that we do, from vineyard owners through to when people are walking in and through our tasting rooms and our
downtown.
Absolutely.
Downtown, yeah.
It's probably the number one thing that we hear. When people come in here, they say, my God, we've been treated so well walking around. You guys are all so friendly. And it truly is. And it's something that showcases what the Winegrape Commission has done to kind of round everybody up and keep everybody on the same page, but also the passion that we all have as individual wineries and business owners to engage. We know that we've got work to do, and we want you to come in, and we're going to welcome you with open arms and make you have a great afternoon or a weekend or however long you stay.
Such a small community that it really does work well.
Right, and it's fun. And to just give you an idea of the size and scope of us and our importance in the California wine context, Lodi produces about 24% of the wine grapes in the state of California. And we have over 750 wine grape growers, and like we said, about 85 wineries now. There was a question, Dizelle, you had mentioned earlier, asking if some of the tasting rooms in downtown were satellite or whether they were standalone tasting rooms, and it is a mix of all of the above. Predominantly the tasting rooms that are here in downtown are the primary tasting room facility for the winery, though, and with a couple of exceptions. There's 1 or 2 wine bars as well, but that is featuring just a couple of individual wineries in one place. So I think what we'll do, in the interest of time, because we have some beautiful wines to share, is maybe we'll start with at the top of the alphabet. So if you wouldn't mind, we've got the Estate Crush 2012 Albarino.
Cindy here first.
Thank you, Jeremy. And this is a fun story. Estate Crush is an incubator, if you will, as a winery, in that the facility really helps small winery operators and folks who may not have full crush facilities of their own crush and process fruit and make wines, but they also do their own wines, and this Albarino is an example of that. The 2012 vintage was a great one for us. This was a beautiful year here. We had an abundance of crop that year, and it's really allowed consumers and folks out there to really have the great opportunity to enjoy Lodi wines. So why don't we taste this, and then we can talk a little bit about what we get out of it and what we see.
Very pretty. It's clean. I'm getting some nice melon undertones under the citrus. It's pretty.
Sure. There is really nice citrus to this.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful perfume. It's got a little bit of banana to it. There's a complexity. There's almost a rich creaminess on the nose that I really enjoy.
That's probably the beauty of Albarino too, is you get this nice mix of citrus and lightness and freshness, but you also have that supporting body in there that you can pair it up with other foods too.
Absolutely. And this is beautiful and nice, really crisp, really clean. It's a wine that really kind of showcases what can be done in whites here in Lodi. We're finding that Iberian varietals do extremely well here in our region, and we do everything like you were saying, Albarino to Tempranillos and Gracianos and Garnachas, and Albarino just seems to thrive beautifully, and this is a great example of that. What about the cheese that goes with this, Cindy?
What about that cheese? Well, the cheese that we have is called tortilla. And tortilla is also known by the name of parilla, or perilla, which is a different name for same cheese. It's a very young cheese. It is all pasteurized cow's milk, and they actually make this cheese from 2 milkings, so morning and evening milking. It originally was put into a wooden mold, a wooden form, initially to indicate a cow's udder. So if you have this lovely piece of, here's the tortilla itself, it would have gone into the mold or the form this way, so it would indicate a cow's udder.
Sure.
It's very soft. It's one that will come out about 2 weeks old initially to the consumer, and so if you get a very young one, it should be very soft. It might even be spreadable.
It's fabulous.
Isn't that
sure.
good?
What's good to cook with it?
It's very meltable, so you're going to be able to use it with a lot of things. It goes great with the foods of the region, so you're going to have the chorizo, the serrano ham, you're going to have it lovely with quince paste, those types of things. Now the rind itself is fully edible.
Well, you know how I am about rind. So I've been chastised because I've said, I'm that guy at the party who leaves the rind and gets the middle out.
Well, you know what? That's okay if you put it on your plate
That's
and
true.
take it off the middle. If you hollow it on the serving plate, you're in trouble.
I know.
But I get asked all the time if a rind is suitable for dining on, and it is. As long as it's a natural rind, that's going to be a really fine taste for you. It will also usually give you a different texture. So the middle of the cheese will be quite soft, where the center, the heart of the cheese is going to be quite soft. The rind and the aged edge will be firmer. And so you're going to get a couple different textures out of that same cheese.
That's fabulous compared with the Albarino.
It's
beautiful together.
Yeah, that creaminess really goes so well.
It is like butter.
It is.
Somebody
Yeah.
mentioned that. That's a great term for it.
Yeah. Now tortilla is from which part of Spain
This
again?
is from Galicia. It's the same area where Albarino originates from.
Sure.
So these are natural pears. You're going to find that quite often in a number of food and beverage pairings around the world, where Normandy or Brittany, those areas of France are going to be very, the dry ciders will come from the apples that are grown there. They go very well with the dairy and the cream that's there, so you're going to get a lot of that type of
That would be in the same
pairing.
zone, that
Yeah.
crispy, firm acidity.
Well, people have for centuries been trying to figure out what those flavors are that go together, and that's what the chef part of me says.
Yeah,
is
lovely.
Try to aim for what beverages and foods come from the same place, and then branch out,
Sure. Well, and that's what I think is fun because, we obviously have our own California cuisine here, and it's a real blend of a lot of different things, and I think what our personality here in Lodi is that we really enjoy things with friends and family, and it's our meals and our wine and sharing is really about kind of coming together of different cultures and different things all together.
Absolutely.
And so to have Iberian varietals and Spanish cheese, Mexican food, and that culture kind of all melding together is really, really fantastic.
It is.
It's a lot of fun.
One of the best things, too, is you can come downtown, grab a bottle of wine, and walk over to Cindy's place and say, what should I pair this with when I get home? And she'll
We do
just
that
let you have
often.
it. Yeah,
Right.
it comes from every different winery around here. They're all walking distance, and Cindy's kind of at the center point of all the things here, so it's a It's a great pairing.
Yeah, where Jeremy, where your tasting room, where we're at tonight, is just south of. Yeah, it's just the south end of School Street. Estate Crush, the wine that you're trying tonight, is at the north end.
Yeah.
And so you could actually almost bookend your walking tour of downtown with both of these wines and visit some of the other tasting rooms and Cindy along the way, which is a fun way of doing it.
Exactly.
And Cindy will do a great job of pairing your cheeses along with your wines.
Absolutely.
Which is fantastic and fun.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting, we've got someone who's commenting about what part of the cheese they're enjoying the most. And you'll find on your piece of cheese, and you guys will see this too, that the center is very, very soft, where here at the edge, you'll see a darkness at the rind. That's where the most age is. And so you're going to get a different flavor here. You're going to get much fresh cream flavor, and then down here, you're going to get a little bit more of an intense flavor from
It just
the cheese.
makes me think of a fresh baguette, the inside part of it, like spreading it onto it.
Yeah.
Having a melt on there, a little bit of warm baguette that comes out, and this gets a little bit soft and gooey.
So good.
Sounds pretty fantastic. Bob and Ali Colarossi and Nick and Sandy Sikiotis, who own Estate Crush, are doing a fantastic job, and actually they feature a number of different wines in their tasting room as well that they're working with winemakers and grape growers to really showcase and help them grow their individual brands as well as make beautiful wines from. So if you come to Lodi and you have the opportunity, Estate Crush is another great stop on your trip, and you have a breadth of opportunity to taste great wines, and they do everything from, again, Albarino's to Zinfandels.
They cover the gamut. Everything in small quantity, they've got all the different growers on it. I think they said they had 60 different brands at some point through the tasting room. So
well, and it's
great visit.
It's a great visit, and it's a great opportunity for folks to, again, see an opportunity to taste a number of different wines from throughout the region in different styles.
It's really a beautiful thing about the downtown is we represent a lot of different personalities. Every little location that you go into, most of the time you're going to be interacting with the owner of that business, and every one of them has a distinct personality inside their walls, and it's represented. And I know for myself and my wife Coral, we are always down here on the weekends. We try to engage with all of our customer base, and I know when I drive by Cindy's place, she's in there engaging her people too.
We're a lot of cheese.
So, well, it's a great marriage, and this wine and the cheese together,
Nice together.
they go together beautifully.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I love my cheese. So,
Who doesn't? And with this selection, we're in for good stuff, I'm sure.
exactly. So why don't we move on to our next wine? This next one is the 2011 Fields Family Syrah. Again, this is all Lodi fruit. Let's see this. Is this your weight?
It is.
So we'll go red on that one for you.
Thank you.
And you'll see my depth perception issues here come through.
Thank you.
There it is. Is this your weight?
Yes.
So Fields Family, the winemaker is Ryan Sherman, and he's developed a collab. Oh, there it goes. That's that depth perception. Ryan is the winemaker, and he works with Russ Fields, who is the Fields family, and they're doing a fantastic job with a number of different varietals. Where we were talking earlier about other Spanish varietals, things like Tempranillos. Could you please bring?
Coral.
Sorry.
Oh wait. Yeah, I'll bring some home for you, Coral.
Sorry, that threw me off a little bit. We had our technical folks on the other side start jumping and pointing at a post that just went up. Jeremy's wife Coral just requested a sample of cheese coming home.
She has a very good mouth.
Yeah, right. She's on it.
So that threw me off there a little bit. But back to the wines. So the Fields Syrah. This is a nice earthy Syrah. It comes from the McCalmy River section, sub-appellation of our Lodi region, and it's a fantastic wine that has spent a little bit of time in some oak. You get a little bit of smokiness, a little oakiness to it,
and not overbearing. It's beautiful, elegant on the palate.
Very nice. Very nice. Oh, it's going to go so good with this cheese.
Yeah, it's got some beautiful dark fruit to it too. But again,
the
elegantly
spicy notes.
Right.
We're directly across the street from the Fields family tasting room. So it's been really fun to sit down with Ryan and pair up his wines with our cheeses.
So this took very little work for you to come up with the cheese pairing.
It's a lot of work to walk 50 steps.
To try wine and cheese together.
Right.
And this is what we call work. Pinch ourselves,
We
right?
are working.
I've worked 40
Here's
years
some
to
more
get
work.
here.
Right.
Exactly.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to you guys.
Yeah. This is a fun wine, though. I think this is just a beautiful example of again, some of the terroir and the earthiness coming out. The McCollum River area has a tendency of expressing some earthy notes in the wines a lot of times that are coming out of that region. And this, in this wine itself, I'm getting that blackberry, that elegance, that spice that you mentioned, but I get this hint of that earthiness to it as
It's
well.
definitely got that earthy undertone and a nice backbone to it too. It supports it all really well.
But unlike some Syrahs, which are overpowering sometimes, this one is elegant, and I think this one has a sophistication to it that really showcases what can be done with Syrah.
Certainly beautiful.
Cindy, there's a question about what are the basic rules for cheese and wine pairings?
Well, cheese, everyone says, oh, cheese and wine, perfect marriage. Well,
Right.
actually, it's not perfect.
I've heard.
What's interesting is that there are some cheeses that go very, very well with certain wines, and others you really have to work hard to find their perfect pair.
Sure.
Champagne or sparkling wines are a much easier pairing because the carbonation, the bubbles, will freshens your mouth, takes away the butter fat, and so each bite is a fresh bite, essentially, which is why dry ciders and beers work really well as well.
Sure.
But believe me, we found our way through many, many lovely pairings, and this is a really good one. The Old Amsterdam cheese
All right.
we'll be having with this is a terrific Gouda. It is made in Holland. It has a black plastic or paper rind on the outside.
So I'm not supposed to.
So don't eat that
Please
one,
don't eat
Cameron.
that part.
I just want to make sure that I...
As long as there's a natural rind on a cheese, that's certainly one that you'd like to eat. But you'll notice this one as well in your sample, that there is a lighter end to your cheese, and then it darkens up right closer to the rind. Of course, the flavor is going to change a bit there. You'll also notice some little white spots, little white dots. And I can't tell you how many people come in and want to know, can we have the cheese that has the salt in it, the crunchy salt?
Sure.
And it's not salt. It's actually the amino acids that come together, the milk proteins, that come together into a crystal during a natural aging of cheese. So when the cheese ages long enough or is well treated, or the affinage, your affineur, the person who babysits the cheese, will treat it properly, that will age properly and get those little dots in them. And that'll be your crunchy bits.
Sure.
This cheese will actually occasionally have, I think there's a wedge in front of you, Jeremy. Does it have a hole in it, little holes?
Yes, that has a hole.
If you look inside the little
Couple on
holes,
the
you'll
ends.
see some of it looks like a salt
Oh,
cave.
yeah.
You'll see
Right
the little
there.
crystals that have all gathered on
Nobody
the sides
can
of
see
little
that. I
holes.
don't know.
So that's really a
Like
prime
a
bite. for-
Parmigiano Reggiano, kind of the same.
It does the
factor,
same
yeah.
thing, yeah. So cheeses that age long, well over 12 months, sometimes some of the 6 or 8 monthers will have some crunchy bits, but the longer they go, the more bits there are. So this has a really wonderful flavor to it. It's going to go great with the fruit that's in the wine. The finish on this cheese, this is one of our favorites. We sell a lot of this cheese in the shop.
It's
The
fantastic.
finish on this cheese is going to be we call it butterscotchy, but it goes very well with the fruit of the wine.
Very good together.
It is.
Great pair.
There's a question. Gonzo Gastronomy from New Jersey asks us about native fermentation and ML. There is a group in town working on native fermentation and kind of playing around with some of the different native yeasts and no new oak and trying to see what the single vineyard expressions, especially in old vines, Zinfandels, can do. And Ryan is one of the winemakers that's working in that area. And that is a fun thing that will be telling the world a lot about here in the very near future. So I'm going to tease it out there a little bit like that and leave it to your imagination, at least for a little bit longer. But native fermentation, there are some folks in the region who have been using native yeasts and really looking at what are some of the different ways of almost different ways, but yet it's taking it back kind of old school, for lack of a better term, in the winemaking process.
It's just a less controlled process, and you have to work with cleaner fruit, and it's more challenging to get through, but
Right.
yeah.
Sure, and it starts in the vineyards
Mm-hmm.
and goes all the way through into the winemaking process. Like you said, without that clean fruit and that meticulous farming taking place in the
Yeah,
vineyard.
it's very challenging to
makes
get
it-
through because you're opening it up. I love in the off season to experiment with lactobacillus fermentations for pickles and different other things, and that's certainly not the aromas and flavors that I want to happen in my wine. But those are also there and capable of taking over in a fermentation. And
Cheeses also will go similarly. There are 3 ways to coagulate a vat of milk. Animal rennet, which is typical, vegetarian or vegetable rennet, which is part of the thistle plant or stevia, and that makes a wonderful vegetarian cheese, certainly not vegan since it is dairy.
Sure.
And then there's the microbial. And that's going to be something that's a little more challenging,
Fermentation.
tricky. Do you get a
Yeah.
reliable end result? Not always.
Yeah.
You got to really
That's
play with
the
it.
consistency of it. Sometimes natural fermentation chooses you too.
Exactly.
You get
Exactly.
batches in and they just start.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that sometimes gets lost and forgotten is that, there's a lot of art in what you do, but there's also a lot of Mother Nature. And it starts in the vineyard, and sometimes things get chosen for you in the cellar.
Man, the first best choice to mess things up is choosing your pick point wrong or getting your fruit in the incorrect condition. That's, the best way to make wine is to just be the steward and gently coax it along its path where you're not having to adjust it much, and that really depends on having growers that are in sync with you and understand your path with the fruit so that you're not having to fight it along and push it in different directions.
Sure.
I like this comment here from Reverse Wine Snob. Even my 6 and 9-year-old likes the old Amsterdam cheese. I want to tell you something. We are so pleased when our customers come in with their kids. We've got a 4-year-old who is a blue snob. She likes her blue cheeses.
Wow.
What's really cool is when a parent lets their child, don't say to them, "Oh, well, honey, you're not going to like this."
Right.
Taste it. Give it a whirl.
Absolutely.
If they don't like it, they'll let you know.
Right.
But most of these kids that are coming in are really their palates are very well educated, and they're picking some great cheese.
They are.
Yeah.
My kids are 6 and 9 almost also, and they like their stinky cheese, as they call it.
Excellent.
Give me the
Excellent.
stinky cheese, Dad.
Excellent. That's
a lot of fun.
wonderful.
So it's a fun. This does pair really nicely together. Those bits of the amino acids.
Right.
I think it almost it pairs so nicely. It creates that little pop.
That little
and
textural component. Yeah.
Exactly, and with the wine, it pops. For me, it pops the dark fruit notes
Yeah.
even more.
Yeah.
It really kind of
And this is
lifts
really
them up.
opening up beautifully too.
A really neat thing about the 2 cheeses here with the Old Amsterdam, of course, we're tasting with this wine. The next cheese is also a Gouda, but it is a goat's milk Gouda. And so be sure that you save a little of your wine and your cheese to flip-flop them and
Sure.
see how you like that pairing with the opposite flavors and see what you think. Because the animal makes a huge difference in the flavor of that exact same recipe. These are similarly aged. They both come from Holland. They're both full fat. They're just really great cheeses. But what a difference there is in the milk.
Sure.
Of course, terroir affects milk huge in a huge
certainly,
way.
Certainly.
Well, I mean,
Huge
that
way.
What they're eating and
Yeah.
Exactly.
You find that mostly in goats. The goat's milk cheeses, you'll find ones that are not as clean. That's where you get that really strong gamey
The
goat
musky,
flavor. Yeah,
yeah.
very much so.
Very cool. Well, why don't we jump to that next cheese and wine pairing? And Jeremy, I'm not going to do any talking on this one because it's yours.
All right, I'm going to have to unfortunately dump a little bit of that field. It's very tasty.
I'm not.
You're doing it the right way. All right.
Look at this. Jeremy won't even spill his own wine like I did.
No, I might
I'm ready.
not. I may though.
Thank you.
There you go.
You know, Cellar Mistress, you do bring up a great point. You're talking about price point on our wines, and I've got to tell you, one of the beautiful things about the Lodi region is we absolutely deliver great, beautiful quality wines at an incredible price point.
It's for sure.
We're very proud of the wines that are coming out of our region, and we want them to be at a price where you can share them with your family and friends on any given night and be proud to do so. In fact, we want you to be able to take them to book club. You know, Jeremy had a guest in shortly before we started this evening that was in to buy some wines for book club tonight, and she was very excited to do it.
I think that we exist in a place where the opportunity is unique within the state of California. I think Lodi sits in a position with the value of the wines and the value of the grapes that we really can deliver a lot of value back to consumers on it.
Absolutely.
This is a great example of passionate growers. The Costa Zinfandel is one that the growers came in. I originally approached them through a friend who had introduced me, and we had discussions with the family members. The son was about 54 years old. The mother is about 83, and the father is 87, and still actively farming that vineyard out there. And it's this one patch of ground that they've got. It's about 15 acres. The primary is about 111 years old. This is actually about 70 years old. And this row was their test for us. They came in, they interviewed myself, they interviewed Coral. They wanted to make sure that they tasted through all of our wines. They weren't willing to just give us the wine and say, you know, I have money, I'd like to take some grapes off your hands. It wouldn't work that way. They wanted to make sure that we were up to snuff. So after many months of teasing back and forth, I'd call him up and say, hey Greg, are you going to sell us some fruit this year, or are we waiting again? He'd say, well, let's just see how it's going. and finally around harvest time he said, well, we're going to let you have this little side row. And the side row is something that about 70 years ago they went through and they took cuttings out of the main field, the 111-year-old vines, and they planted them, essentially a fence line that runs along an access road into the vineyard. And this was their test for us. And so we went through the 2012 vintage, and after they tasted the wines, they came back and said, hands down, you guys have your choice out of the vineyard, as much as you want out of there, whatever you guys want to pull from there.
Good job.
So in 13, we actually got this little section again, and it's just a dumb little fence row. It doesn't look gorgeous. It's just a fence. And I love this little wine. It yields about 6 barrels every year. It's self-rooted. It's very distinct. It's very intense. It's got this almost dusty earthiness on the top of the nose, and then it just loads in all this beautiful layering of fruit and just tiny bits of vanillins in there, and a really nice palate as well. So in 13, you're going to start to see from us the next vintage, which is actually a little bit broader and very interesting. This is one of my favorite wines of the year so far. I've got other ones coming that might trump me, but so far this is my favorite wine I've made this year. Every year I seem to have one that I totally fall in love with.
People ask us in the cheese shop, you know, what's your favorite cheese? Are you kidding?
Right.
I get to buy all the cheese. I get to fill the cases. You know, it's kind of like, who's your favorite child? You know, today you're my favorite child, but you're not.
The
you know,
cheese
and then
that's in front of you, that's
exactly.
right.
What am I cooking today? You know, what am I adding to it? The Midnight Moon Goat Gouda is just spectacular. This one is a 12-month-old wheel. It does have a wax rind on the end, so you do want to remove that. But this one doesn't have very much of a dark line where you see where the aging has happened. This will have a few of the crunchy crystalline parts, but the flavor is just spectacular. What I like about this is that where the Old Amsterdam has that butterscotchy finish, this one almost has a caramel finish.
Right.
You get that real
You
long,
do.
creamy,
Texture's
candy
the same.
type.
The finish is totally
Different. It's one of my
Fantastic.
favorites. It's really a great cheese. Cypress Grove Creamery, that's where this comes from, which is up in Arcata, California. However, this is a cheese that is produced in Holland. They actually produce the cheese in Holland. They're shipped back here, and the affinage of the cheese is handled at the creamery. The wheels themselves are fairly small. They're only about 10 pounds, 9.5 pounds, somewhere in that area, and they're just really well received. Almost everybody loves it, even those people who go, oh, I don't eat goat cheese. You don't really, to me, I don't taste goat in this. I
No,
taste
it's
caramel.
distinct, yeah,
Very
caramely.
much caramel, yeah.
It's a great pairing too.
And the crispiness, like you said,
Yeah.
you get those little crystals in there again, and it provides a little crunch.
Yeah, and
That's kind of fun.
it's a great palate reset too.
It is. You know, Jeremy, there was a question
Sure.
that I'd like to ask. Somebody had mentioned, as a winemaker, do you think there are any varietals or varieties of grapes that are underrepresented in the Lodi region, that we can grow here that are underrepresented?
Man, you know, as a winemaker myself, I kind of follow a shiny penny philosophy, which is really, I'm scattered, but if I find the right grower and the right variety, I don't care what it is. I'm going to try it out. I've got one grower. She grows an oddball variety, Marzamino, but next to that, she's got 2 clones of Tempranillo. She's got Tiraldigo. She's got Susau, Morvedra, Petit Verdot, Petit Syrah, all in one little tiny little compact vineyard. I think it's really, there are some varieties that don't do well in Lodi, and there's a lot of varieties that do well, but it also comes back to the grower. It really comes back to the grower. If the grower is passionate about it and they know how to farm it correctly, you're going to get great wines back in the winery if it works in our climate. You can't stress the grower enough. I mean, that really is, you can walk into the vineyards and you can see the difference, and in the end, you out there are going to taste the difference in the wine.
Well, and I think we're, again, going back to where we sit and how our AVA is structured, we have a broad diversity of terroir within our own region. I mean, everywhere from sandy soils and the delta influence on the west, all the way up to kind of those fingers of the Sierra foothills coming down on the east side with more granitic and volcanic soils. That really allows our growers to be playing with different varieties and different grapes and different things that you as a winemaker then in turn has the fun of experimenting with. And we find that our region, actually, while we have a deep heritage with Zinfandel and some other varieties, we also have a deep heritage with Italian and Portuguese and even German varieties that were brought because this region was settled by the immigrants from those 3 countries, and they brought those kind of desires for those flavors with them. And that's a lot of fun that a lot of people don't really think about when wine came to California. A lot of people think even just as recently as the 60s or 70s, but really it goes much further than that, even beyond, much later than the missionary days. But, back when the immigrants came here and were settling as farmers, they brought that desire to have those wines for their own home winemaking, and those have flourished in our region. And then the experimentation of our region that has recently developed to allow for over 100 different varieties of wine grapes to come into the region is pretty spectacular.
But our history here in our area has been, we were the watermelon capital, right? And then hugely planted with Tokais, right? Was there anything other than Tokais? The huge Tokay region.
We were the Tokay capital.
Was that Sacramento wine?
I think it did.
Churches only?
I think it did go into Sacramento.
It went into a lot as blenders and as sweet wines. Sherries were very big, 70s. And that's a big base of sherries and sweet wines, ports.
So, Jeremy, we have the request.
About the label.
About the label. We have to go there.
We spent, I spent quite a long time owning a design studio. We designed wine labels for a lot of different wineries in the region and outside of the region. That was part of my background. And we worked about 9 months to come up with this label. The label represents, it's almost like a resume for me. Coming out. It represents my 40,000 hours in the wine business, starting in 1994, working in the cellars for various wineries for about 7 years, all the way through into sales and marketing. So if you look at the label, just a simplified version is, if you flip it upside down, the J makes an F, and then Jeremy makes 40,000 for the hours that go into it. So that's just the simplified version of it, and my story. And when you're in the tasting room, that's what I throw at you is you're here, I'm always only 40,000. That's my story with it.
Yeah. Coral would probably say that it's been 40,000 hours, or at least it's felt that way this year.
No, she'd say 80,000 hours.
But who's counting?
Yeah, nobody's keeping count. When it's wine and it's your passion and it's what we love to do, and it's the same way with you, with the cheeses. It's what we do and what we're so honored and fortunate to be able to share with other people. And it doesn't feel like work.
You certainly feel lucky. I feel like I've worked my whole life in apprenticeship in various ways leading up to this. This is my calling. I love the wines. I love interacting with the people. We meet so many interesting people coming in here, and it's just something that I have endless fun with. So it's a great thing.
I want to be sure that everyone who has the wines and the cheeses in front of them at some point flip-flops your last two reds with the last two cheeses.
Oh, yeah.
And try them the other way around and see what you think about that pairing as well. It's interesting.
I've been doing that, and actually at least with Jeremy,
Yeah.
going back and forth between the two different
Yeah.
Goudas. And it's strikingly different,
Exactly.
but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've not tried that.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
I love this.
Midnight Moon.
The Midnight Moon.
Astonishing.
It is.
Very frequently we carry in our shop also one called Vintage U, E-W-E. And Vintage U is actually the same cheese, same age, but made of sheep's milk. And so when you're at our counter and tasting Goudas, if you're a Gouda lover, you will get Old Amsterdam first, Midnight Moon second, and the Vintage U third. Same cheese, same age, and here you're trying all the different milks and seeing how the milks really affect that recipe.
Well, and there are so many similarities and so many overlaps between cheese and wine, and how they express themselves and how they develop as they age, and minor tweaks and changes or a different stylistic approach to it.
They're living products. You
They are.
have this lifespan, and they do go through changes. I think that's the beauty of it. When you open a bottle of wine, or you have that cheese that's aging, you're getting a different experience every time you go back to it. And I think that's a beautiful
We
thing.
find that with the cheeses as well, depending on how old the cheese is when we actually receive it from our distributors. We'll get something called, which one am I going with directly? Well, here in California, one called Teleme, produced by Franklin's Mid-Coast Creamery. We'll get that cheese that the more it's aged, the runnier and softer it gets.
Okay.
Well, occasionally we'll get it and it's very young and it's sliceable wheat. They're firm blocks. It's delicious that way. But when we get it and it's older, we literally put it in a box and have to scoop it out with a spoon to serve it in one of our olive tubs, because that's where the connoisseurs really go,
They probably
you have
love
the
it,
right
yeah.
come, And so, though it's delicious at every stage, each one has its beauty.
Absolutely. Well, since we have so much depth and diversity, why don't we go on to the Vineyards Aurora Petite Syrah and our accompanying.
My glass is empty.
Your glass is empty, so you're good this time. There was a question at one point about what else would you pair the Zinfandel with?
Barbecue.
Yeah, I was going to say, Zin is barbecue. Zin is absolutely.
Braised short ribs, man, no kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And let's see if I can...
That's a lot of good food that goes with.
Well, and you know what? There is a good body to that. Oh, no, we can hear. Tell you what. And keep yours in. Sorry.
I'd like to poach
We
some
got plenty
pears.
of glassware.
Yeah.
I'd like to poach some pears and serve it with some raspberry sorbet. How about that?
That's fantastic.
Okay,
yeah.
hey.
You're better on the fly.
Keep it. Not necessarily. I say you bring the short ribs and I'll bring the sorbet.
We'll call it dinner.
Then we'll enjoy it all. But now we move on to our big broad shoulders of the night. Not that you're not, broad-shouldered and strong, Jeremy, but the Vineyards Aurora Petite Syrah. This is the biggest wine of the evening, and it absolutely is one that has some beautiful depth and heft. I mean, when you pour it, it's midnight black. It's just a
This guy
gorgeous
is just a
wine.
monster.
It is. This is the 2010 vintage, and it's just got this great depth of color and character to it. Admittedly, I tasted a little bit earlier, and I love Zin and I love Petite Syrah, and this is just a great wine. There's a lot of dark fruit going on.
Definitely a lot of dark fruit.
This is a brand
in
new
this.
winery here, isn't
Yeah.
it? How long have they been in existence
I think
now?
actually he's been doing wine for about 2 or 3 years, something like that. I know he started early on, either with fields or, like most of us do, small startup wineries, you often nest inside an existing winery as an Altstaying proprietor, where you can make your wines get off the ground and then stretch your wings out.
Yeah, Gerardo Espinosa is the winemaker and the proprietor at Vineyards Aurora, and his story is phenomenal. His family came to this country as immigrants and worked in the vineyards, and then moved on to worked very hard to help their kids go away to college. Gerardo is actually an architect by trade. And actually, I think that comes through in his wines. There's a good structure to them. There's it seems very logical in a sense, a nice structure and build, to the wines that
Clean
really
and
express.
precise.
Exactly. And the Petite Syrah is definitely an example of that.
See, I find that this is supported with really good acidity, and it's got robust tannins and big structure to it, but it's clean and beautiful. Like it definitely could pair up with some great cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this cheese is amazing. It's real fun to pair these two together. This Piscolini Farms Bandage-wrapped cheddar, it's about 18 months old, and it has been named one of the world's best cheeses by the noted authorities.
Okay.
What's really neat about this in particular is that when you taste this cheese with this wine really brings out the sweetness of this milk. The Piscolini Farms family, John and Heather Piscolini, do a great job with their animals. Organically raised, though not organically certified. Mm-hmm. They do a fabulous job with their terroir, and it shows in this milk. Mariano is their cheesemaker. He started out in Vermont, actually at Shelburne Farms, and came here, I think it's in 2000 or 2001, to help develop this cheese for Piscolini Farms. And in effect, this is what a bandage-wrapped cheddar looks like. Bring one of these up. You get the actual bandaging around the cheese. It is actual cheesecloth thick, and it helps promote the natural mold growth and the proper mold growth that will help this cheese age properly.
Very cool. Well, and it goes very, very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the cheddar and the Petite Syrah go fantastic together. You know, the Petite Syrah, there was a question about whether it's a varietal that's grown often or regularly here in Lodi. And there is quite a bit of Petite Syrah in our region. And it's done for a couple of reasons. One, because it grows beautifully here and it goes into a number of different wines, but it also makes a beautiful varietal, standalone wine like this. But it also pairs and is really good friends with Zinfandel.
It's Zinfandel's buddy.
Yeah, you know, those two go so well together in a bottle of wine that that really provides a little bit sometimes of the depth of character.
It makes Zinfandel at times a little more complex. It adds a little bit of backbone to the mid palate, and it overall can accent the jamminess. And Petite Syrahs can range from extremely extracted and very brambly and ripe raisiny to this guy, which is more elegant and beautiful, but still big structure. But the fruit's very clean and precise on it.
Delicious.
So why did you choose this cheese with the wine?
Because it tastes so good together.
Okay. Well, that works. That works.
Well, what's really nice is when you find a number of cheddars. The cheddars, cheeses, milk curds that are cheddared. It isn't the name of a cheese. It is actually the process by which the cheese is made. And this is the only style of cheese that becomes cheddared. They essentially take the curd as it's been drained from the whey and put it through what almost looks like a meat grinder or a food mill and come up with these little fine bits. The bits that are then warmed once again in the vat so they help hold it together and start to meld them together. If you were to take a piece of your cheese and you break it, you'll find that it breaks into almost what looks like a little piece of granite. You know, you get that craggy granite look. And what that means is that the cheese curds have started to meld together, but they don't completely compact. And so in order for the cheese to age properly, this one's been aged 18 months, but you can get a cheddar that's aged up 12, 14 years. You have somebody taking care of that cheese. The affinage on that cheese is very long. And it allows, the cheddaring allows for the whey to very slowly remove itself from the cheese.
So do you get the same crystal buildup in the...
Very much so, very much so. A good English farmhouse cheddar is going to be heavy in the crystalline development. But this is just a wonderful cheese. It just works beautifully with a lot of the red wines. Most cheddars will work nicely with reds in a variety of ways. Depending on how heavy the cheddar flavor is, you're going to go with a little lighter red than the darker ones. But this one will be just fabulous.
It's fantastic together.
Doesn't it really bring out the nice
beautiful,
sweetness on that cheese?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It's fantastic. I mean, it's just...
I could really eat my whole plate right now.
You can't. Coral said bring some
I
home.
know. Bring some home, Coral.
So, of course, you know where to get more.
So, you know, I think that's a good point. I never knew about cheese being
Cheddar.
either. I think that's a really interesting one. So, you know, I think as we look at the different processes of how we make the cheese, you have the cheddar, you explain that.
Correct.
The bandage, you kind of explain, what does bandage-wrapped mean? I mean,
When the wheel or the chunk of cheese is completely covered in the fabric, the cheese that gets put into the aging cellar, you know, essentially the same way that wine is done, it will age in the cool at a very slow rate, and it will help to develop the rind. If you'll notice on your piece of cheese, you'll notice this little, almost looks like a brush rind on the outside. This is part of what the bandage leaves behind, is that dry rind, which is fully edible.
Okay.
You may notice that it has a different texture, but it's not going to hurt you.
I haven't been eating it because I thought it was part of the bandage.
No, not at all. The fabric has been removed before we get the cheese.
Yeah.
But it helps its development and allows it to age for a very long time. So we were talking earlier about Telemay. Telemay cheese, once it gets to a certain age, it starts getting really runny. It's not going to go 12 years. It's something that's made differently. Every recipe for cheese is made a little bit differently. This is one that cheddaring allows it to age for a long period.
So are there any appellations in cheese in the U.S. that are happening? Like,
you know, it's interesting because there are regions in our country that are very concentrated in certain types of cheese or milk production. Certainly our northeastern states, you know, Vermont is huge in cheese production.
Oh, right.
Texas is another
So
big...
primarily it's just kind of state-based at this point.
It's very state-based, essentially. Vermont, Texas, the Northwest, and certainly California. 25 years ago, there were only 2 goat herds producing milk for liquid consumption. We made no goat cheese until Mary Keene of Cypress Grove started that revolution. Now there are well over 200 goat herds producing milk just for cheese.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
In 25
Fantastic.
years, yeah.
Wow.
It's spectacular.
Incredible.
I wish we had local cheesemakers here in our area. Our closest local is Fiscalini Farms, which is there in Modesto. And then to the north of us, that's to the south of us. To the north of us is a Sierra Nevada Cheese Company.
Oh, yeah.
They're making beautiful cheeses there as well. We carry a wonderful cream cheese that they make that is beyond belief, and we do that in our Cheese 101 class, hour-and-a-half class, where we learn about how cheese is made. We're not making any, but we learn how it's made. Cheddaring is addressed there. But we sample Philadelphia cream cheese next to Sierra Nevada's organic cheese, as well as a French chef, which is goat's milk cream cheese, essentially. And so you get that progression straight across. We don't have any in our local area. The closest then to the west of us is going to be the Marin French cheese, or the Cheese Trail. And I think there's 25 or 27 cheesemakers that direction.
Wow.
And nothing that I know of east of us. So we really have this concentration way closer to the Bay Area north. I wish we'd have more here. I would love, we've got a different terroir than they do.
Absolutely.
You know, totally different.
Well, you know, and I think the cheese goes so well with this wine, and Gerardo has done just a fantastic job with his wine. His wines are these beautifully structured, balanced, diversity of wines. He does a couple Spanish varietals. He also does obviously the Petit Syrah was one of his first. He does a Petit Syrah Cabernet blend that is a beautiful wine. He really wants to provide folks with this great experience in what they have as far as offering for their palate. He's looking at paying homage to his family in a lot of ways. The Petit Syrah Cabernet blend is, he says, and we'll describe that it's a marriage of his heritage and reminds him of the structure and the body of his grandfather. It's this beautiful story of how he feels wine is an expression of who he is and who his family is and where he's come from. And I think that that's one of the beauties of what we can offer in wine, is that it can also help us tell a story. And Gerardo is passionate about what he does in his wines. He's partnered with a local chef, Ruben at Alebrijes, to open this fantastic tapas restaurant, Pamplona Tapas, here in downtown Lodi, which is a great place to share the cuisine and the wines together.
Again, walking distance, one
Walking
block
distance,
down.
yeah.
Exactly.
That's what's so nice about our downtown, is that we're within, probably 4 blocks long by 2 blocks wide. There's so much to experience.
It's a full day worth of eating, drinking, and walking.
Maybe a weekend.
Yeah, a weekend. Yeah,
Exactly. So it turns out that some of our folks like your Zinfandel with
Dark
salted
chocolate,
caramel.
great
caramel
combination. Yeah.
chocolate. I think that goes really well with Zinfandel. So
In general, chocolate, well, we know from the previous wine and
Right.
chocolate weekend,
Weekend.
everybody enjoyed the dark chocolate with lots of Zinfandel.
Right. We just held at the beginning part of this month a great opportunity, folks, for people to come and visit the Lodi region, visit each one of our individual wineries. It's called Wine and Chocolate for exactly that reason. It's a marriage between these two great things around Valentine's Day weekend, a great marriage of love between red wines and some white wines and chocolate. And
that's just some of the things. We've got Zinfest coming up at some
Absolutely.
point here too, and then more things in the works. So.
yeah,
And our
ma-
wine stroll. Wine stroll happens
stroll.
also, which
Absolutely.
is really fun.
Right. Wine
Yeah.
stroll through the stores and shops through
Correct.
downtown. Great way to kind of experience the region.
Bacon chocolate bar, that's got to pair good with wine.
Yeah, absolutely. Bacon and chocolate and wine and cheese. You know, if you could melt a piece of cheese on top of bacon and chocolate.
We've
would
done
you
it.
Oh, have you?
Oh, heck yeah.
I was going to say, you've got me there. You've got me there. So with that, I think we've had a lot of fun tonight. We've had a lot of great wines, a lot of wonderful cheeses, a lot of great conversation, and really want to thank each and every one of you for participating tonight. And I also want to extend our wholehearted invitation to each and every one of you to come and visit us here in Lodi. You can reach out to us at the Winegrape Commission or Kimberly and her team at Charles Communications. We would love to have you come and walk our streets of
Yeah,
downtown
absolutely.
and visit our vineyards and our wineries to really to experience firsthand what we have going on here and taste more of the diversity.
Come
that
in,
we've
I'll
got.
personally welcome you. I know Cindy will,
Yeah.
and
Great wine, great cheese.
it makes for a great weekend.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you for the wonderful cheeses.
Our pleasure.
And thank you for the Zinfandel.
Hey, no problem. We're happy to bring it
And-
home.
Absolutely. And again, thank you all for joining us tonight, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm empty.
Oh, you're empty. Oh, that's bad luck. We can change that. Okay, here. We can change that real quick.